All right. So as I said that, so today we are basically, trying to, as I said, that there was one assignment that is left. This is assignment number 5 that was supposed to be, and we are going to have our final assessment shortly. So what I'll do today is that I'll give you a chance to, work on your assignment 5 that I'm just about to open up, and that would not be. I will try to make it as as near as possible to our previous one, maybe, so that you have got some ample time for completing that one. So it will be a short assignment. I'll be just giving you a description of that project shortly. So, so for this week again, because this is our penultimate week, and the next week is the last week. Let me just see if we are. Yeah, so we are left with one topic, and that I'll just try to cover up today before leaving you with your with the assignment 5 and the rest of the things. So last week, what we were discussing, let me just share my screen and show you. Good afternoon, Akshit. How are you? Okay. So I'm expecting that you are looking at my screen now. Okay, Vinny, thank you. Keep just looking up on the folders for you. Yeah, so this was our lecture, like week 12 last week, and this is our week 13, by the way. So I might create another folder so that we have got that also with us. Okay, so let me see which were the last files that we worked on. So this was March 31 was the last file that we worked on. And I hope you had a chance to look at the recording of this previous lecture. And we talked about the promises in that one. And we saw that what are the promises. I'll just show you that. So can anyone please correct me that was it the last March 31 was the last file that we worked on? Yes, so we worked on this one, and we talked about that these are called the promises, and this was towards the end that we did. And now if you talk about that fetching of data that we were, yeah, I talked about fetch, Vinny. So Vinny, again, correct me if I'm wrong. We talked about how to use this fetch in using these, like in this loading of data method. We used fetch for bringing up this data.txt. We used fetch for bringing up users.json. We worked on that one. And that was the file that we were working with, the fetch. So again, this same file we worked with, first of all, we worked with the XML HTTP request, if you remember. And then I worked with this one by using this fetch. So the one thing that is remaining, if I remember correctly, is that the async await functions. Async await we have not discussed. And I would like to talk about the async await today, first of all. And then after async await, we'll see that what we are just about to do. So again, if you remember, if I open up the notes, we talked about all these things that we have got this asynchronous programming where we talk about these different kind of things, and those things consist of this the callback functions. We talked about XML HTTP request, and we have not talked about jQuery, Ajax, and XGS, by the way, but we can just you might be able to just see them in action when you will be in the full stack or the second part of the course. You might be able to just see that. So we talked about that this is promises, async await. So we reached to this point where we were working with the promises, and we saw that we can use promises to bring data into our application. And not only the data that we might bring is basically from that typical thing. So today I'll tell you what is this async await and how we can just work with async await to work on this application. So till last lecture, as I said, the last lecture was March 31, and we talked about the promises. And you saw this was the application where I was just discussing promises, and I gave you some examples how promises work. And then for this practical usage, I just discussed, I use this promises by in this fetch API. So now today what I'm doing is that I'm creating a new folder so that we have that folder also for this week also. So I just create a new folder, week 13. Week 13 that we have. Now this is week 13. So I'll be working in this week 13 now. And I would like to tell you that again, what are those async await functions? Okay, so this is our week 13 file. No, we didn't say how to use fetch to get API, only text and just. Yeah, so that's a very good, Vinny. It means you are strictly following and you are thoroughly following all the lectures. That shows me. You're right, Vinny. And today I will use fetch with async await functions to bring from API. That's a wonderful observation that you have given. This is the right observation, because today I'll talk about first async await, and then I'll show you how to use fetch with that async await, and then you can bring the data from the API by the way. So I'll definitely bring the data from the API. So that's a very nice thing that you have just mentioned. Okay, so let's talk about again an application for today, index.html, and again script.js. Our first file is always very normal like this, script.js, and let's cook our index.html first. And you know, it's very easy to cook our HTML. So we have this one, and okay, so what we are doing, what we are discussing over here is async await. Which is, by the way, I'll tell you that this is one of the very, very important, advanced feature that we usually look in. And as I said, that in JavaScript world, we are now looking to these kind of things. So let me place an H1 and async await, and using fetch like that. Fetch to bring, it's a very long sentence, so let's put it H1, and then let's put it paragraph, and using fetch to bring API data, right? And also by using async await. So again, we are fulfilling two purposes today. The first purpose will be we want to bring some data, and by using the API from the API, and we will use async await methodology to work on that. Okay, so I want to connect my script over here as well. Script src, and I will say script.js. Now again, the old method, I'll run the file and I'll check that. Hello, is it working or not? Hopefully it should be working, so I'll run my file. So you see here, I'll show you that it says hello. It means my script is working, and it means that I don't need you anymore. Right, so my script is working very much. So I don't need you. And let's put that skeleton CDN, because this always gives a good look to your project. So I'll just copy that one so that the project looks a bit acceptable in use, right? So just copy this one and link it with our HTML. All right. Okay, so now we have got the skeleton CSS, and now this is skeleton CSS changed our file at text at least, and now we can see that. Okay, so to start the discussion on that one, I will talk about some of the normal scripts. If I have a function, my function, whatever, it's a normal function, and I say that this function returns hello. No big deal. It's a function that's doing what? That's just returning a hello to us, right? And if I call this function, and by the way, since it is returning, so what I'll do, let's do console.log my function. And you know that what will be my output? Of course, it would be console, because right now I'm just using the console over here. So if I go to console, you see that hello is being returned. So this function is returning a hello, and that hello I can just print out over here, and I can see that this hello is over here. Make sense, everyone? So a normal function returns what? Whatever you provided. Now there is a category of function. There is another category of function that we are discussing today. They are called async.
One second, I gotta lecture.
Sorry. You want to say something? Okay, looks like someone is by mistake unmuted. And now, okay. So see here, a normal function always, so you see when there was no async, if I again hit save, I get a hello, right? So whenever I just refresh this page, I'll get a hello. Why? Because it is just returning this hello. Now, if I convert this function to an async function, I'll tell you what is this async function. We create our asynchronous functions that have the code that will become very easy to handle, not by using promises, but by using some of the they are one way or other sometimes become the replacement of promises. But we need to use them, and I'll talk about that. So as I hit save, see what happens. Okay, let me just clear that one so that you know what is going on. If I hit that save, what I'm getting back, can anyone let me know? I am getting back a promise. So an async function, if you say that a function is an asynchronous function, what it does is, the first primary thing that it does, it returns a promise. It does not return a text or whatever you have given that. And yes, it says it's a fulfilled promise. It is passing on the hello and things like that. But I'm not concerned. I'll just talk about how to deframe that one, and then how we can just look at that. But we understand that okay, whenever we have an async function, it always returns a promise. And if it returns a promise, it means I need to call this function the special way. My function. So when I call it, you know what it will return? It will return a promise. And if you want to catch a promise, you use then. Right? And this then, you remember, it will run a callback function. And again, since there is one parameter, I can just directly do that. Console.log res. So it just returns this one. Right? Now hit save and see what happens. And I'll clear this one. Now, how many of you understand what has happened? It has, like again, dot then always catches back the promises. So now it is returning a promise. And if it is returning a promise, I need to call this function by this way. My func dot then, and this then will just access what? The positive part of it, or whatever it is returning, whatever the promise it is returning, it is just returning that promise, and it's just showing that promise over here. You know what I mean? So first of all, the first thing that you need to keep in mind, an asynchronous function always returns a promise. And this is another good way. It is just not showing anything on my page right now, by the way, but I'm just telling you. So another good way of that, it always returns a promise. And I don't know, I'm just not returning a promise from here. Do you see that? I'm just saying return hello. But even that has become a return of a promise. Why? Can anyone tell me why? Why this return hello has become a promise and I have to catch it by using .then? I have to just capture it by using then, because the function that I am defining, this function is an asynchronous function. Does that make sense? So an asynchronous function returns a promise, and by using asynchronous function, we can make our asynchronous code very effectively, or very simply we can just create an asynchronous code. Now, what does that mean? Let's talk about something. So it returns a promise. I just do what? I just delete that one, and I come over here, and now let's do something. I want to practically put a promise here. New. Remember everyone promise, which has two properties: resolve and reject. And let's call this one. Right. So now let's see that set timeout. It's running a set timeout. And set timeout has a function that we want to run. So for example, I want to run a set timeout function that will do resolve with a message, hello from my function, right? Something like that. And I want to run it after, maybe for example, to start with, first 1 second. I want to run it after 1 second. And I say that just return that one. Now you see here, This promise is basically a new promise that will be resolved or either resolved or rejected, and it will return something to this one. So think about it. It might take a good amount of time. As I said, I have set timeout 1 second only. I can do it 5 seconds, 10 seconds. For example, if I say 5 seconds, it means I'm saying that now this promise will take 5 seconds to come back. Like, you know, this promise to resolve, it will take 5 seconds. Does that make sense to everyone? Now let's talk about this. I want to catch this promise over here, and I want to catch the response from this promise. And I say, for example, run this promise. Const res equal to promise, and now see here, return response. Now return response from this part. Is that right? Now let's see. First of all, I'll show you that what I'm trying to make you understand. So if you see here, of course, right now it's just giving undefined. If I just do that. So let's wait, maybe after 5 seconds, it might happen. You see, after 5 seconds, it is technically just, you know, bringing up that data, and after 5 seconds, it is running. So the promise gets resolved after 5 seconds, and that is returned to this one. Now, the concept is, technically speaking, it's basically right now doing the right thing. But technically speaking, we use this await keyword with all those values which might take a good amount of time before the res is returned to that one. You know what I mean? And now you see that this hello my function, still it is returning. It's still returning the same value. And after 5 seconds, but you know, this promise will take some amount of time. It might take any amount of time. So this await will make our rest of the code, this res code, to wait unless that thing has been done. You remember we did an example of that get post and post, create post and get post example. So here again, for no reason, it is working without this await as well. But I can use this await with this promise so that when this promise will come back, whenever it is resolved, this res statement would not be reached in a real environment. Can I get some feedback from everyone? Vinny, are you getting that? An async function has this property that you can do await with something, and await will do what? Await will wait for that particular happening. So be it you are bringing data from, for example, an API that we will do right now, that you're bringing data from API from this statement, and it will just keep on waiting for that one. Await means that don't execute this statement unless the promise is received. Parth says, oh, yes. But you understand what we are discussing? And anyone else? Other than Parth, is there anyone else here? Vinny? Tariq, you understand what's going on? So this await does what? Await basically does what? It says that, technically speaking, that now that the value is coming over there. Right. So now I need to, of course, I need to use this one. But what about if that is not resolved? Maybe that does not get resolved, or maybe there is some problem. Now let's create a problem by ourselves. Let's first of all make it comment. I'll make it comment, and I'm going to work on something. So for example, if I say I'm just producing an error by myself, error is equal to true. I'm just trying to create an error over here. So if I say if not error, so if not error. So if not error means what? I'll just come back to this one. Const res equal to await promise and return res. If the res is received, you return that one. So else to what? Await promise dot. So promise dot reject. So I'm just waiting for the promise dot reject. And what I'm doing, I'm just creating this error by myself and produce this error. Something went wrong. I'll repeat that, Vinny. Just hold on a minute. I'll just repeat that. Let me go away with that one. Oh, else spelling is wrong. Right. So now what I'm doing, that I am automatically, or I am trying to create an error. So it is called promise.reject. You can just create an error by itself. Promise.reject. You just reject a promise, and new error, something bad happened. Now I'm not catching that error over here. So what I'll do over here, you remember, I'll just remove that for a second, and I'll say catch. You remember, catch also accepts a callback function. And I can say console.log error. Just show me the error if there is some error has happened. Now you see here, I'll close that one. You see error. Something went wrong. Now, this is not an error that Windows is creating. It's not the browser creating this error. This is an error that we have caught by ourselves. Something went wrong. Something went wrong. So if I just make it false, statement, I have just, So if it is false, not false means it should be true. If it is true, it will wait. You see, it is waiting. Waiting for what? Waiting for this promise to execute. Why? Because the error is, if I will not error, it means I am saying that it is true. You understand? So it will wait for this promise to execute. And if it is true, so not true means false. You know what I mean? Not true means false. What happens is that says, okay, error, there is something went wrong. I don't know what's going on. And actually this is displaying this message. I can display my own message as well over here. So if I say in the backticks, if I say the error that occurred is, and now I'll say $, this one, and I will see this one. And for example, the error is this one. So if I just do that, oh, unexpected end of input, oh, backticks is not there, right? So now see here, let me just do that. Now the error that occurred spelling is very bad, is error, something went wrong. So that something that is occurred is basically an error, and the error message is something went wrong. Error message is coming from our this one. Are you getting that? So it's basically what? We have just created an error by ourselves. It's a self-generated error. We have created error. We just wanted to check that whether this catch is working or not. And by the way, if I just make it, both ways I can do. If I just make it false and I hit save, you will see that now it will run, and now it is waiting. Waiting for what? Waiting for the promise to be solved. You know what I mean? It will be waiting for this promise to be solved. This line. So unless it's solved, it will never return. It will never return this one. And here, what we are saying that await for the rejection. Also, we are saying that just await promise dot reject, and we can reject a promise like this. If you want to reject something, you will use the promise, the promise class, and you will say reject. You will call the reject method, and you can pass a new error message over there that this is the message that I want to just pass on to that one. Now, are you getting a little of that one, Vinny? Now, Vinny, I'll just make you understand. Vinny, this is function. My function is returns a promise. We saw that we just created a promise inside that one, and we created a promise that has resolve and reject. And before that, what we did, that we used these two lines. Const res is equal to promise. So execute this promise, get the result out of it, and return this result to me. You know what I mean? At that time, Vinny, what we did, we call this one by using this dot then. This was, I'm talking about when we started this one. Now I introduced an error by automatically, and then I told you that how to use this catch as well. So now I created an error by myself. I said, okay, constant error is equal to false. If not error, like again, if it is true, run this command. If it is false, might again, the error is true. If the error is true, then what will happen? That you will see the error occurred is error and something went wrong. So this statement is running basically, and this will show the error that occurred is error, something went wrong. And this something went wrong is coming from. Why? Because in else I've just given promise.reject. Whatever is coming, if you are reaching this to this code, just reject something over here. You know what I mean? And then that's what I've done. I have just used this catch to catch this error. Right. So now let's talk about something. So this is the method of doing that. Now what I'll do, I'll just make all this comment, and I'll come back to my index.html and just let's bring up. So again, we have to bring those users from API. So let's create a button with an ID of button BTM. So I have a button ID with this one and bring users. So I want to bring users from somewhere or bring some data from somewhere, and I want to bring that over here. And of course, for capturing the data, I can just give a P, and I can give it an ID of equal to, for example, data. So I'll show that data over here. So this is our usual way of doing things, that we have a data section where I just want to bring that data to. Right. So there's one of the API that we can use. We can use others as well. So one of them is JSON placeholder, and this is the one. So there are lots of APIs you can use, but you see that this returns a JSON data. So this just returns the JSON data, and there are certain users with that there. So I'm using this API, right? So we have used multiple APIs before as well. So I'll use that one. But anyhow, right now we have a button that I click on that one, and I want to show the users over here. Now come back over here, and I'll leave this code for you just for your review later on. You can have a review on that one. So first of all, let's catch the button. Document.query selector and hash btn. And I want to add an event listener to that one. Click. And I'll say, for example, load users. I'll just call a function, right? And let's check load users. It's a function that I want to run. And let's again checking of console, debugging that one. Working. So it should be working with the click of the button, right? So let's check that one console. Where's the console? You see that I get working, right? So if I just refresh that, so it means my code is working and my button is working also, right? So now here I have to write all the code. So you would have seen that we usually used to do that kind of thing. Okay, so we say const response or res is equal to, right? So I say fetch, right? Fetch, and let's place that URL over here. So that I copied, right? So if I say const res is equal to fetch, I'm just doing it a usual way, and let's see if it works, right? And then I'll tell you, I'm not using async await till now. I just wanted to show you that what's going on. So now this will return a promise, this will always return a promise. Fetch always returns a promise. And you can check that whether it is returning a promise or not. So if I want to take out data from this promise, so I'll say this res.json. So the data will come out from this res.json. You know what I mean? I'm not using async await, by the way, just return. Remember. So return data. I want to return data from here. Right? I'm returning data from here. Now, how to call this function? I'm not. I have just I have just called this function over here. But you see, just for a second, if I just close that one, I'll show you. Then you can just use it with the load users as well. So how would I call this load users function? Again, because this is in that one. So I'll say load users. And yes, then, and users should come from that one. And I'll console.log. And I say users. I just want to show that those users. Okay, what is missing? This one is missing. Oh. Is that working fine? That's right. Okay, so it says the res.json is not a function. So it says the res.json is not a function. Type error, res.json is not a function. Looks like there is something wrong over here. You know what I mean? Now let's try to do something. I convert this function into async one. It's an async function. And if I come over here and I say await the response. Sorry, over here as well first. Await this fetch first of all. Now run this one and check what is happening. Now, do you understand? Now we see the example. I am getting this data. I'm getting these 10 users. I was not getting these users when I was not using await. Vinny, did you see that? Did you focus on that? When I was not using this await and async, it was not working. And I can show you again. If I take away this await from here, and async from here, I just call it function users. And if I come over here, it says res.json. And you know why it is giving res.json is not a function? Because res, unless it receives a promise, it will never show that unless it has the JSON, you cannot run the JSON function with that one. When you make sense of it, and everyone else? So it's doing what? This async await typically does what? This async await will help us to do that kind of thing. So for example, if I come over here and I say async, this function is an async. And by the way, I cannot use await without async. I don't know if they have just updated that one. So if I use directly await, and if I use await over here as well, await as well over here. So if I use that, we see that await is only valid in async functions. So I forgot to mention, for example, it's not forget, I intentionally do that. So async functions have await inside them. So if I hit save now, you will see that now I am receiving all the data, and the data is 10 files that are just coming back from that API that I was accessing to. Is that making sense to you? Right? So now what we can do, we need to just associate that. For example, if I just do it, first of all, do it this way, and I come over here and I say, for example, over here, I say document dot query selector, and I take the data. I have given the data ID, where I have given this data ID over here. I want to put that over there. So hash.data, document.query selector hash data dot inner HTML is equal to. Now what should I write over here? Users. First of all, let's check with the users if it prints those users, because we might need to just go through all the things and things like that. So if you see that what it is saying object. Do you remember that I would leave this on to you, that you have to just come up with the solution, that how I would be able to run this code, how I would be able to destructure these users, because these users which are coming, you see, these users are coming in this way. They have ID, they have name, they have username, they have something like that, and I might need to just run something before even working on that one. Do you remember how did we do that in our previous programs? That we need to run the for each loop for all these users. You need to read all these users in that typical way, what they are doing, how you would be just doing that, and then you need to associate with that button. Later on, you will just bring with that one, but you need to just change those users into something before putting that as the output of the screen. So you remember we have done those previous projects where we were doing the fetching or something like that. So you might need to run a for each with that one, and you will run a for each, and then you will see what will going on. So let me just give you a single example. So if I say, for example, you remember users dot for each. Sorry, users dot for each. You run a function inside that one, and of course, this will run a function with one user at a time. I hope you remember the syntax. And I'll just take it away, or rather, I'll just not take it away. I'll put it over here, and I'll come over here. So I'm taking out one user at a time, right? And what I can do, you remember that what we can do is that we can just create a variable. Let output equal to nothing, right? And now what I can do is that I can just put output plus equal to. Now anyone would like to tell me? So now I would just make, maybe let's create an li for every data item, li, and for example, so I say a $, user dot, and let's see what are the fields, what are the different fields that we have from that one. So users dot name, for example. So I want to take all the names from that. So if I say user dot name, let's close that li, and let's put that one this way. So output will be populated, and what I can do is that I can just put up output over here. So I'm not attached it with the button. Do you see that all users are coming over here? So their first names are coming over here. And I can just extract everything out of it. ID, email, if I just say that not user.name, rather user.email, for example, if I say that, if I hit that, you will see that, okay, now there all the things are coming over here. Only the emails are coming over here. And you know that you can just display all the record, by the way. Right? So if I just go and just say user and see that it's object, you need to just convert that. You need to just find out each and every value. So for example, there is an address as well, I think. Let me check that. No. ID, name, email, address. Okay. Now why it is not giving? Because address itself is what? Its address itself is an object. So you need to just go through this data and find out that what you can extract directly and what you need to just go over there. So that all I have just discussed in the previous lectures. You can just have a look at the previous lectures. You'll find out that how you can just go into all this data and just play with that data. Now, here our purpose was typically, and I just left that for you. You just click on, go over there and attach this load users with this one or whatever you want to do. So you'll have to do that. So now if you see here that this load users function is typically doing what? It's typically this load users is an asynchronous function, and all asynchronous function, you remember we have done that. If I take away this await from these two, and even I put it this I just put it that like that. So you see I'm not getting anything. And why? Even though the async function is there, but since I've taken away the await, so it says that type error res.json is not a function. It says that res.json is not a function. And why it is not doing that? Because res is not received. Now let's do it step by step. If I say okay await, I'm asking it to await for that one. So you see, now you see that what is happening. So I'm not getting the error and I'm getting the users back, even though I've just taken away the await from here. And by the way, I will be using await over here as well. And why I will be using await? Maybe this process also takes some good amount of time. You know what I mean in the poll? That maybe that this process also takes a lots of amount of time. So before returning this data, I will say that I keep on waiting over here before that. So I'm just leaving few questions with you. I'll just see that how many of you just come up with this one that you need to just associate with this load users with our button that I just take it away, and you just need to just put that one over there. And how would you do that? And how would you, when you click on this bring user, these users should come. So that now you can just put up the name, any API that is providing you these JSON users, and you can always JSON data, and you can always work on that. One of them I always give you the practice of that as well, API/users. So you see that is also coming up. And again, I would like you to practice that. And I will just copy this one. I'll show you that it won't show me the data. And I would like you to just correct this one. If I just do this one instead of this, right? So if I hit save and I come back over here, you will see that, okay, it's not showing anything because there is something wrong. And it says users.forEach not a function. Why? Because here, if you see that users are not received. And why they are not received, I'm not telling you. Look at the syntax of that data. You might need to find out, okay, this is page, per page, and that. So this data has originally all the record inside that one. Are you guys getting that? So every API or everything will provide their data into their own way. So here, you might say, okay, this users.forEach will not work. But the users that are received, they have a data array inside that one. I don't know how many of you are understanding what I'm saying. If you do that data for .each, let's try that out and come back over here. Still it says undefined. And why now it says undefined? I'll have to go and check. Okay, there is no name field over here. You know what I mean? So I will say, okay, there is a first name, first underscore name. So user.first name won't work. Rather first underscore name will work. If I do that, now I see George, Janet, Emma, and F. But are you getting that? This is very interesting. You can play with different APIs, but every API has their own way of sending data to you. This API is sending data in this way. So, you have the data actually inside this one. You see, the array lies in this data. So you have to restructure this data over here. You cannot directly access that one. You know what I mean? And on the same way that we did with this Chuck Norris joke. So you remember what was the ICLVE? What was the Chuck Norris? Anyhow, you can just try out with all those ones, and you can check that async await is playing a wonderful role. That if you take away this await, your problem goes, your code goes into error, and it says that res.json is not a function. Why? Because you are reaching me even before the res has executed, even before the res has received the promise. Do you understand now the async await? Because I knew that whenever we'll come to the example, you will definitely come to know. Everyone is with me? Okay, Tariq, thank you very much. First, you are also there. So that is the last thing that I wanted to just tell you, how to update the DOM and how to just do that. So in terms of topic, we are almost over. But there is one more thing that I want to share with you that you would enjoy. You would definitely want to do that. You would have to work on that one. And I will share that with you, the link. And the link I will share on the group. For today's lecture, there will be some special topics that I'll share. The forms, creating forms and applying some CSS and Bootstrap to that one. Then I have recorded one previous one, so I'll just share that with you. Right, so for today, our lecture would be over right now. The thing that I want to discuss, this async await and all those things. So I'm done with that, and we can just work on that one if you feel about that. Any questions thus far? So I'll share that with you in the Teams, and everyone who is looking at the recording, look at the Teams after this one, and I'll share those links with them. So anything that you, and by the way, as I told you, if you do not see any update from me regarding assignment 5. We might just keep our assignments maybe to the 4, and I'll just adjust the grades with that one. And if you see that, because we are now supposed to like release that final assessment, which will be a week-long assessment, sort of exam type of assignment. So you might be looking at that. If you don't get an assignment 5, just forget about that. I will just adjust the grades in our 4 assignments, right? So that's something that I will just do that.
Okay, so for the final assessment, we are just making the website, right?
Yeah, so you will make that website according to the requirements, and then when you are done, you will submit that, and that is your final exam, by the way. Also,
okay.
Right?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so there's no final exam, by the way. So, but that is typically the final. So I'm about to share that link for you, and you will find that on your Teams. So those looking at the recording, go to Team and find out those links for that. Right. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. And okay, so yes, test 7, 8, and 9, they are not checked, by the way. And yeah, Vinny, I understand. I remember that one. Vinny, just don't worry about that one, and go and attempt all those rest of the tests that are available. And just don't worry about that, because I might be. So tests are over. We will have only 9 tests. There will be no test 10 for this week, right? I hope that's also recording. Yes. So we have no tests this week. We just have our final assessment that will be over there. Right. So Tariq, when I'll do that grading for next week, I'll be with you, and don't worry, we'll just discuss it, that what is remaining and what is there now, right? No, Chris, the tests are over. We had, if you look at the addendum, you'll find there are 9 tests. There were supposed to be 9 tests. No test this week. Again, if there was assignment 5 that was due this week, but there's not there. Right. So thank you very much, everyone. Inderpal, I'll check that one, right? And I'll let you know. Yes, last week. Final assessment is last week, right? So if you have any questions, you can just put that on Team, and we'll just try to return on that one, right? Bye, everyone. Thank you.